call this meeting of the Bloomington Commission on Sustainability to order at 6:01 p.m. And we'll go through the roll call. Tara Dunderdale.
Here.
Justin Vassell, I'm here. Matt Austin.
Present.
Here. Zero Rose.
Present.
Do you have a camera? There
Here.
we go. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, here. John Eldon. Dave Rollo.
Here.
Here. Quentin Gilly. Not here. Jamie Scholl.
Here.
Here. Evan Nix. Not here. Annalise. Is it Yanka?
That's the correct way to say it, but Janky is
Okay.
how my family says it. Here.
Gotcha. Okay, well, welcome. Here. And Diana Ogrodowski.
Ogrodowski.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, 0 for 2.
No, but you know what? It's pretty impressive. Nobody ever gets that good. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right, and Shenghuai Shu. Not here. Okay, so we've got 8 people total, and we've got more than half here in person, so we are good to go. Okay, so first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. So, are there any? Is there anyone who wants to suggest a change or amendment to the agenda? Okay, so all in favor of approving the agenda as it was sent around, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't wait for the people on the Zoom line.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Okay, the agenda is approved. Let me just make a note here. John just walked in. Okay, so the next item is approval of the minutes. We've got 3 sets of minutes that need approval, but none of them are ready yet. So, unfortunately, nothing to approve today. So next time we'll have 4. So
Next time.
yeah, it's like a vote-a-rama. All right, and with that, we'll move on to public comment. So we've got 10 minutes set aside for this portion and up to 3 minutes per person. So is there anyone from the public, either here in the room or on Zoom? Maybe we'll start with the room and then we'll go to Zoom first that would like to address the commission. Okay, not seeing any takers in the room. Is there anybody on Zoom? Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, that does it for public comment. Then we will move on to reports from commissioners. So the chair's report is up first. Oh wait, hang on a second. I'm looking at the wrong, I've got the wrong packet open in front of me. Okay. Okay, well, I still got the order of things right, so that's good. Okay, so how's Zoom window go?
I really appreciate the amount of weeks that you put up there. Be like, we're coming up on half a year.
Oh, on the
Monroe
org
County
chart?
Commissioner vacancy.
Yeah, it's good to know when it's time to just, send a call up the chain or whatever, but
I'm
yeah.
happy to show up at their meeting and put it on them.
There you go. Yeah, so this is the state of the org chart as of today. So we've had some changes. Hunter Hawley, his last meeting was last month, so we're bidding farewell to him, and then we're welcoming 2 more members onto the commission now, so that brings our total number of filled seats up to 12. So we've only got 2 vacancies, and that mayoral vacancy there is very fresh. So hopefully that'll be filled soon, and the county commissioners as well. Since we've got 2 new commissioners with us, I thought maybe we'd give them an opportunity to sort of introduce themselves and say a little bit about sort of what their background is and their interests in sustainability. So Annalise, why don't we start with you?
Definitely. I'm not going to start off very strong. My future in sustainability is a lot better than my past in sustainability, but I have huge passion for it. I'm currently a project manager at the Center for Rural Engagement at IU. So that's definitely a skill set I hope to bring to this. I love taking community projects and making them happen, making them reality. So I hope to do that here. And then in the future, I hope to go to law school and work on compliance law with sustainability. So.
Welcome. And Diana?
My name is Diana. I've been a Bloomington resident for the past 10 years, and I currently work in the nonprofit sphere. So I've done lots of different things with that in our community. Particularly, I have a background in housing and homeless services, as well as other experience doing case management with pretty low-income families. And so my hope is to bring a lot of the perspective of those families and those experiences to the commission as part of our economic sustainability. And also, I would really love to make sustainability something that is accessible to those families and to our most vulnerable community members. So thank you for having me.
That's awesome. Welcome. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. Okay, so a couple upcoming events of potential interest here. The first one there I had up on the slides last time, IU Economic Development Summit, August 12th up in Indianapolis. And then this one was sent around to us by Jolie or Sean or both. I can't remember exactly, but this Earth Charter Indiana holds their annual Climate Leadership Summit, and this time they're doing it up in Indianapolis, I think where it all got started. So encourage folks to sign up to that. I've registered for it. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to make it, but if not, hopefully somebody from here can. Yeah, Matt?
Just a comment, I haven't been to the IU Economic Development Summit, but I have been to the Earth Charter for the last 3 years.
Oh, awesome.
And it's definitely worth going to if you have the time and the opportunity to do.
Yeah, are you going again this year?
Yeah, good networking and good content and a good way to spread ideas that you have and listen to others. So
Okay,
very
yeah.
worthwhile.
Awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
What's the date and time on that?
5th of September. It's kind of an all-day thing.
Yep, all day.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know what date that is? Or day? Friday?
Yeah. Okay.
Jolie and I will be there as well.
Awesome.
Indianapolis is a good place because it's been all the way up in Gary previous years and other places.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
much more accessible.
Yeah. Don't have to travel so far. Cool. And if anybody has like events that they think would be good for this slide that most of the commission would be interested in, just shoot me an email at some point. I'll throw it on there. You can try to fill it out a little bit more instead of just having two. Okay, so a glance at the funding and awards status for this year so far. I've changed the color of the gray so that it doesn't appear white on the white background here on the projector in the room like it did last time. So hopefully it's a little more easy to read. But we don't have anything that's been formally proposed yet. We don't have anything that's awaiting approval. We've got some ideas that are sort of in the hopper. Some of them are more developed than others. And we sort of just have estimated amounts that those would end up for in the proposal. So, none of that is in stone or anything like that. Yeah, John?
I started talking to an environmental science teacher at, I believe, Bloomington South about working with I think there's a student club there, or student groups anyway. Is there any reason why that would not be appropriate for these funds? If I work with them and make sure makes sense.
Yeah, so like using the funds to work with them and...
That would probably be more a question for you, Steve.
No, yeah, probably right. I know like the sustainable neighborhoods couldn't go to schools, but that's probably a separate thing. Any reason why the working group funds couldn't go to school or indirectly to schools?
It could. Schools is one of the appropriate partners for the Sustainable Neighborhoods Fund, actually. Yeah, great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you got something in mind, write something up and send it over. We still have 10,000 to spend, and we do have some of these things kind of in the pipeline. So hopefully we'll be able to get through. I think we'll be able to get through some of them before the end of the year. But just keeping in mind, the cutoff would be our November meeting, since we need to have everything, kind of out the door for the city to take care of, their side of things logistically before December 1st. So we got a little bit of a early cutoff.
Sorry for the distraction. I'm trying to let Evan in, but it's just not working for some reason.
Quentin is having the same issue.
Okay.
I'm emailing them. Would you show me again?
Okay.
They just
Justin, I
need to
didn't
go
hear you
to
say Quentin's name. Did
the
you?
link in
Say
the
this for- Okay,
Bloomington.
I missed that.
Yeah.
The link in the email didn't work. I had to go to the city website
Okay.
Oh,
to
Okay.
get into the meeting.
well,
So
that's
they
probably
Google
on me.
boards and commissions, they'll see the calendar on the right and then click on that. So.
On the Zoom link.
Interesting.
Okay.
All right, maybe we'll hang tight for a minute to see if people can get in.
Dave's hand is up.
Yeah, Dave.
Could you clarify, Justin, is the cutoff of November, the November meeting, is that the final decision on that date?
Yeah,
Funding, or is that?
Yeah, we just have to have the sort of final approved proposal to ESD by early December, right? And so before our December meeting.
So,
Okay.
yeah, you'd want to vote and have it approved before December 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, good question.
Keep admitting, but I'll just keep admitting when I see it.
Okay.
I don't know, you might
Sounds
keep
good.
going.
Yeah, we'll move along for now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. Oh yeah, I suppose I have to keep going back and forth.
That too.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, yeah, so some news from outside of the commission. So a couple things here. One of the big things that caught my eye recently was that the city announced a sort of a pretty big shift in how they're approaching the Hopewell neighborhood development. What happened was, at least in my understanding of it so far, is that the city basically just rejected the previous developer proposals that were sort of in front of them for the Hopewell South neighborhood blocks 9 and 10, and are sort of pivoting to a new approach with this company called the Flintlock Lab, focusing more on sort of local, developed by locals for locals kind of strategy. And they're focusing on things like pre-approved designs to streamline permitting, and really engaging in like community-centered development. So I think there's a couple interesting things here for us to be aware of. Number one, it's a good opportunity for us to get involved in these conversations and sort of educate ourselves and identify opportunities where we can provide valuable input as this moves along. They're really looking at things like housing affordability with this change. So that's something that we've been thinking about. That's one of the sort of priorities that we have this year. So an opportunity for us to get involved. They're, like I said, they're trying to kind of streamline things, which can be a good thing. But also something that is a good opportunity for a commission like ours to, sort of have another set of eyes to watch to make sure, that it's not just rushing along. If there's some input we want to provide about how the timeline progresses, then we can do that. It sounds pretty exciting. I think in the press release, it was sort of referred to as like a guinea pig project for citywide process reform. So looking at things like cutting red tape and trying out some new things that haven't been tried before. So definitely something that caught my eye. So some of the questions I was just thinking about is like, if the goal here is affordability, how are we sort of balancing like permanent affordability with temporary affordability? what are the building standards and design features that they're going to include there. If there's process improvements, that are going to be made, how do we actually measure that and sort of verify that? And are we actually getting, measurable sustainability outcomes out of it? Next steps, not totally sure. It might be good to have a more detailed discussion about this at the next meeting if that's something that people are interested in, just to get, we can maybe invite somebody knowledgeable on this to come in and sort of give us a briefing and get us caught up on it. But it might be a good opportunity for us to think about, where we're going through the sustainability assessment report right now. This might be, one way where we can kind of think about frameworks by which we, look at things that are happening in the city to evaluate them on a sustainability, sort of spectrum. So, where can we help? Where can we get involved? It's kind of what I'm thinking about that. The other thing on this slide here is just city council schedule, and I'm sure Councilmember Rallo probably has more to say about this, but just they've been in summer recess for a little while, and that's coming to an end now. And over the next several months, August, September, and October, there will be a lot of sort of stages of the budget process playing out. So just something to kind of keep on everyone's radar. So before we move on here, maybe I'll pause for any quick questions, thoughts, especially about the Hopewell stuff.
What was the cause of the strategy shift? Is that the previous administration versus this one? Previous mayor, anyway?
I'm not sure. Do you guys have any insight on that?
What was the question?
It's kind of odd to say like, oh, we're doing a total shift in direction. Was it that the direction came from the previous mayor and then this one has different interests? Do you know anything? But just curiosity. It's not.
I think the economic climate has changed also,
That's
so
fair.
I think we have to be more realistic as to what's feasible. So I think
sure.
they've had to take a pause and revise what the previous administration wanted to do. But I don't know the specifics about what they're looking for, and that I'm not really a part of the Hopewell planning process. But
Costs went through the roof.
Yeah.
What the plans were.
Yep, totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened to that 10,000 unit development that somebody came in last year?
It was like the Sudbury group, I think, that was developing that. Is that
I
right?
don't remember.
Yeah, it's different with the city being the
Yeah,
developer
I know.
versus, right, versus.
Was that
Yeah.
other one moving forward?
Yeah.
I think it's still moving forward.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it was, and maybe Dave can add in, it was approved by council, and so it went to planning, and I'm not sure where it stands, but I'm assuming that it's still progressing, and it was going to be implemented in phases.
I don't have anything to add. It was approved by council. I think two was objected to.
What's that?
All their material costs.
and, Tara has her feedback.
Oh, yeah. Tara, go ahead.
I guess I want to add, maybe as part of the questions for our commission, if we have, if there's data available about occupancy rates of existing housing developments that have come in the last few years. I know there's a lot of apartment buildings that are way over market rate, but are also seen empty. Curious if we have data on that. I'm not asking for an answer right now, I just want to add that.
Yeah, the
One of
department.
our questions for the commission.
And
Dave?
The department to ask that question would be the housing and neighborhood development.
Okay, sure. Yeah, good. Yeah, Dave.
Just to respond to Tara, this is the perpetual question. It's self-reported, so
how accurate is it?
we really don't know what the occupancy of these developments are. But we've heard anecdotally, actually from people who have worked there, that some are as low as 30%. But they always maintain that they've got 80% plus occupancy. So if anybody has ideas on how we can maybe get that a better idea, that would be very useful, I think.
Is the way the data is collected, bound by any, code reasons, or is it that's just how it's been collected? Are there legal limitations to how you're allowed to collect the data?
Yeah, there are. I mean, there are privacy concerns, and we're sort of stymied by those. So we can. It's a good discussion, maybe, Justin, for maybe as a agenda topic in the future, and we can pick that apart a bit because it's certainly relevant.
I'd like to follow up on this before coming on to the commission. I followed the what was in the old Kmart site, Blooming Foods East, that development, and there were supposed to be gardens as well as family type housing. Although after it was built, and starting to be occupied, I called to find out about the rentals, because getting online I saw that they rented by the bedroom. It made it way too unaffordable for a family, and that's not the way you would rent to a family. And so I followed up with one of the local reporters, and I think I might have asked Dave, I can't remember who to find out what happened between the time it was approved with council by the time to when it was actually constructed. And there is some kind of change that happened between that time frame. Something happened in planning to make that basically more luxury student homes. And that's a concern of mine, that with anything that gets approved, that council approves it, they go through their process. We have no oversight into that process. There's no one that knows. It's not being reported on. The reporter, I believe it was Dave Askins, I think I talked to and reached out to him. He wasn't aware of it. No one I asked was aware of this. So I think it's something we should keep in mind as a commission. I'd love to have someone here come and tell us and give us updates about Hopewell.
Yeah, so somebody in the Zoom chat actually, by the name of Eric, just posted a couple links and said that the consolidated plans from hand include some housing vacancy info. So I will open up these links in my browser and send them to folks so everyone can take a look.
And as far as I didn't quite get the name of the new members. Are they on the email?
Yes.
There's an email that was out as far as an address to contact them?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, we've got the green building working group going, and we're doing this sort of little art bench garden project as an example of green building. But from the beginning here, and it's part of what I expressed in the interview to be on the commission, was an interest in affordable housing, and the main way of doing that is including ecological components and efficiencies as ways to generate revenue for the residents and lower the cost of living. So we'd be interested to do working sessions, the Green Building Working Group as well, in direct relation to housing. And this Hopewell development is, being the city property, it's kind of a unique opportunity to shape how the city does something different than these default status quos that roll along. And it sounds a little bit like they're saying that we can't afford to do anything, besides the basic standard. But that's something that sort of builds in these predatory systems with the utilities and stuff. So I'd like to arrange that, and I'll send out an announcement, particularly to, like I said, I didn't quite catch the names of the two new people, but the one in the unhoused and housing sphere.
Yep, that's Diana. Yep. Okay, yeah, perfect. So it sounds like folks are interested in this, so I'll try to find something for our next meeting, get somebody to come in and talk a little bit more about it, and if other folks here have ideas about, something specific we could focus on, just let me know. Okay, great. So switching into sort of internal focused commission updates, just a couple things on here right now. First, just wanted to make everyone aware of some new sort of like legal obligations. Some of these are coming from the Indiana General Assembly from their most recent legislative session, which was effective as of July 1st this year. So one of them is that, you know, the commission members' names, their terms, and who appoints them has to appear on each agenda or notice that we send out. So that's not a huge change or anything, but something that you'll see on the agendas going forward. And then the other one that might be more notable is that all commission meetings have to be recorded and posted to the city's website now. So that includes working groups and things like this, and the work sessions that we do. So we've got a work session coming up in a few weeks, and I'll just be planning to put that on Zoom or Google like we've done before, and then just record, you know, the screen and make sure everyone's audio is recorded as well as part of that. But just want to make sure everyone was aware of that. And then the other one is, I think, more of a city-specific thing. It's just that any formal statements of opinion that we put out as a commission, like resolutions and things like that, just have to have a disclaimer on there, a specific you know, piece of language that states that the commission does not speak on behalf of the city, the views are our own, that sort of thing. Yeah, and then the other new thing from here for this meeting is the standard operating procedures, which I had talked about just a little bit at the last meeting, putting together some you know, documents that could serve as sort of roadmaps for common things that commissioners do, so that, you know, folks know what the process is and you know, so how everything works. So I put one of those together so far. I sort of came up with a list of various things that we do, and this is just to kind of guide those processes. So, you know, the first one that I wrote here is number 3. Curiously enough, it was just the third in my list. How to submit agenda items. So, yeah, we can go to the next page. Thanks. So yeah, there's a screenshot of it. So if you want to submit an item to the agenda, take a look at this. I've got the link to this at the end of these slides, I think, and maybe on the previous slide. But there's just a folder in the read-only Google Drive that we put together. We can send these things to you guys as well to put on onboard. So you'll find them there as we start to populate them. They're non-binding, so you know, I don't think it's anything we really have to vote on. It's not this is the way you have to do things. It's just best practices, basically. So yeah, if you want to submit something to the agenda, you know, here's the instructions for how to do that. A few steps with some extra context there to walk you through the process. So give it a try next time you want to see something on the agenda. If part of that procedure seems confusing or it just seems like too much red tape or something and it's slowing you down, let me know. That's definitely, you know, bureaucratic hurdles is not something that we want to introduce here. But hopefully it'll help, you know, especially, you know, for, you know, new commissioners and stuff that are onboarding to like get a good sense for how the commission actually functions. Yeah, so there's just a list of things that I've sort of come up with so far, and some of them are just, you know, wisps of an idea. And if anybody wants to help write some of these too, let me know. Definitely would take the assist on that. Okay, good. Okay, commissioner focus areas. We've been starting to fill out this list week by week. So if you haven't picked kind of an area that you're interested in making some progress on this year, let me know. Send it my way. But we're starting to get you know, some of those items filled out there. And again, this is not to like, you know, corner people into like you have to work on this specific thing, but just to give a little bit more structure, you know, and help to kind of, you know, grease the wheels a little bit as we think through things that we can do. And for the new commissioners here, don't feel like you have to have ideas ready to go onto this spreadsheet. You know, it usually takes a few meetings to kind of get into the swing of things. So, but if you have something, send it my way. Okay. All right, upcoming meetings. So we've got a couple things on the business side of things today. Our next meeting, we've got some tentative items there. So amendment to the BCOS bylaws. This is something that's sort of been like one meeting away for a couple meetings now. But as long as things like resolutions are coming up and bubbling to the surface, I'm happy to push back the bylaws stuff until there's time for it. So yeah, you can see a couple of the things on the agenda there. So, what's not listed there is the Hopewell discussion that we'll hopefully have. So there'll be a fourth thing to add to that list there. But yeah, there's a couple things that are probably coming down the pipeline that are just not scheduled for any particular meeting yet. Work sessions. The next one is July 29th. I booked the room at the library. We have it. We'll be recording it. And hopefully, haven't confirmed this yet with Tara and Evan, but hopefully we'll be talking about the sustainability assessment report and maybe workshopping that a little bit. I know that's been sort of, on deck for us to have a working session on. So if nothing else, that will be the topic at hand. Otherwise, we can just brainstorm stuff. Okay, we can move to the next slide. I think we're getting close to being done here, so we can move on to the good stuff. Okay, so we've got a resolution before us for our first reading today. So and this is, we passed our first resolution in a while back in December, but it was sort of we were approving something that we had input into that process already. This is sort of the first resolution that we've had in a while where we're sort of suggesting a new policy or a policy change specifically. So, good to do the 2 readings on this, and there's not a lot in like the bylaws of exactly what first reading and second reading means. So there's some room for interpretation there. This is just what I think would sort of make sense for the first reading, to have some sort of brief presentation from the sponsor, from whoever is bringing that resolution forward, just to give some context to it. And then we can have some time for a discussion, Q&A, and then basically it'll just be a vote to advance it to the second reading. So just a simple motion and a second, and then we'll just do a voice vote for that. So we don't have to worry about introducing amendments or anything. If you see some wording and you're like, no, I don't think we should word it like that, we don't have to make those changes now, although we can kind of discuss a little bit and brainstorm. Just to make clear that, voting to advance this to a second reading doesn't mean that you're, for it and you're, in favor of it. Although you may very well be. That all comes during the second reading with sort of the formal passage, right? So once we get to that at the next meeting, we'll have a motion and a second to sort of consider, that resolution for adoption. And then that's when we'll have our discussion where we talk about the merits and everything, and offer up amendments and that sort of thing. And then for that, we'll do a roll call vote for the actual adoption on that resolution. So just to give a little structure to this process here. And, I think I'm mostly going to skip this slide because I'll send this out over email after once making amendments actually becomes more germane. So the last slide there that I have is just the typical resources slide. You can see I've added the BCOS standard operating procedures link there. So that links to the folder that currently just has the one file in it, but hopefully soon we'll have more. Okay, good. Any final questions for the chair's report before we move on to the next item?
Just one.
Yeah, Matt.
Unified Development Group,
Oh.
It's not developer.
Oh, thank you. I'll correct that. Acronyms, they give me. Okay, great. We'll go on to the Waste Management Working Group. Matt, do you have anything for us this week?
Yeah, multiple things. We had a meeting at an interest meeting at Unitarian Universalist Church on Fee Lane, and they're going to start adopting Bokashi. We had about 20 residents, and they had a lot more that were very interested in. And we're finding out that neighborhoods are good, but faith groups are much better because they already have a leadership team and they want to care for the earth. And for those the new folks, Bokashi is fermentation of food waste. It's done in 5-gallon buckets. Compared to composting, it's on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 9, whereas composting is like a 4 or 5, because you do still unfortunately create methane and you lose about 50% of the minerals and nutrients to the composting process. Bokashi is done in a 5-gallon bucket. It's anaerobic. It's a cold process, so you keep 90 to 95% of the minerals and nutrients, And once, it takes 2 weeks to ferment in that bucket, you can put all your meat, bones, dairy, oils, all the things you can't put in traditional composting. And once it's fermented, you can then put it into a pit, and in 3 months, it'll be soil. So we already have partnerships with the Bloomington Community Orchard, partnered with the Taste of Bloomington, and just went to the vendor meeting to figure that stuff out. And then all the food that's fermented from the Taste of Bloomington is going to Will Detmer Community Garden, or Community Gardens, yeah, to turn into food waste. So that's moving along. We are looking for volunteers for that. There are shifts of 2.5 hours. I'll send out the link to sign up if you can volunteer. Otherwise, I'm going with the Citizens Advisory Committee. I have been going to the farmers market 2 Saturdays a month is what I committed to, and I've been meeting various people. Met the environmental science AP environmental science teacher at North, biology teacher at North, teacher at Montessori, and we already have pilots at 4 different schools. We're talking with the project school right now. We have Harmony. We did a 2-week at Templeton, and we have Marlin as well. So we're looking to expand into the schools even more so. And these are like 3 to 5-year-old kids that are doing bokashi on their own and figuring that stuff out. So we're really working on that culture shift. And then we're still looking to figure out who we're going to partner with for the next festival, so that we can apply for the BCAUS working group grant. I think I've mentioned this before. We're looking at Lotus in the Park and the Boys and Girls Club for 2026, the Strawberry Shortcake Festival. But we have a lot of other irons in the fire right now that are happening. And then July, the next Monday is the Plan Commission, and there are multiple UDO changes or additions. One of those is urban ag commercial, which will allow residents to not only, they're already allowed to have their own urban farm, but they're not allowed to teach on their own farm. You literally can't teach how to garden on your own property in the city. So that's one of the things on the agenda. I would encourage you, if something like that matters to you, to show up and make public comment that you are for, and if you're against that, say that you're against it. That's what the platform is for, to voice your opinion about the way that you want the city to go.
When is that planning commission meeting?
I think it's
July 14th at 5:30 p.m.
Okay.
And then also on August 11th at 5:30 p.m. It applies to me, so I had some things I could comment on it immediately because it affects me.
And there's likely going to be proponents and non at that, and so I don't think that it's going to end up getting voted on. It'll get pushed, but we'll see.
Yeah, so with that, if they were to, say, approve that, then would it go to city council?
City council.
Okay. So we could, draft up a resolution for that case if it came before city council to say that we support that, provision going through and why we support it. So, yeah, something to
And definitely,
keep an eye on.
August 2nd, go to the Taste of Bloomington. They have the most vendors they've ever had, 51, and they're trying to break the 10,000 visitor mark. So if you have folks that are from outside of Monroe County, invite them in, because it's going to be an awesome event from 3 to 10. And people are putting a lot of work, and it's the entire stretch of Kirkwood. So it's going to be, and open containers. You can walk. You can't go north and south, but you can walk all along Kirkwood with open containers, which is, without the college students, which is pretty smart.
We get one day. Yeah.
So 3 to 10, so please be responsible about that, and there will be, bokashi will be featured there to expose that to residents and whatnot.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
And those two events on July 14th and August 11th are what? Say that again?
Plan Commission. So it's a planning commission. They have to vote on all the proposed UDO changes or additions, and then if they vote yes on that, then they go to city council after that.
Yeah, it's urban agriculture commercial. I could read you the number, ZO-18-25. It wasn't as easy to find online as what I thought it would be, but there are some things on those points like operational standards, the definition, and soil quality that I have some questions about and doesn't seem to be very clear. And so from the person who needs to know this, I just can't attend during those times.
Yeah, there was the Joe Davis case of abatement with hand that kind of defined things as garbage that could seemingly, you know, characterize anybody composting in the backyard. But yeah, that's a different thing.
Yeah, that's already in the code, and it's under the word putrescible. Yeah, I've addressed that, so, anyway.
Good word for me.
What is that? What is that word?
Putrescible?
Putrescible?
Putrescible could be a log decaying in your yard, which then is actually building soil, because it could attract certain quote-unquote vermin. So there's this lack of, this is something whenever I first joined the commission, I brought up, I think, just over a year ago, because there were some, having attended those meetings, some of those meetings for the hearing, there were some inaccuracies there, and then lack of definition, and some of those are not supportive of sustainable practices. Yeah, anyway, I could go into it, but I'm not going to take any more time off of the agenda.
Anything else, Matt?
No, I could say a lot more, but I'm going to hold my tongue on certain things.
Thank you very much. Okay, yeah, the next report here is the Sustainability Assessment Report. Now, I know we haven't had a chance to workshop this at all at a work session, but Tara, do you have anything on that front? Or Evan?
Yeah, Evan shared his section of the assessment with me, so my plan is to consolidate those two documents, and then we can, at the next work session, hopefully do some tweaking and refining so that we could maybe put it on the agenda in August, is my hope.
Awesome.
Or September, if August is already full.
I forgot one big thing, sorry.
Yeah. Well, here, let's wrap this. Okay, that sounds
That's
good.
all.
Definitely
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
Yeah, so that, I'm good with that being the agenda for the working session, and I can be at that session.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, Matt, one more thing.
Sorry, I apologize. The makesoil.org. I talked to Tom McGlasson of the Waste Reduction District. We had a Zoom meeting with one of the representatives today. Makesoil.org, they have an app that allows people who already compost to partner with people who don't already compost. And this is something that when Joe Winnie was on the commission, we were trying to create something, and the Waste Reduction District has a Google sheet where we've sent out surveys, and we're trying to pair residents that already compost with ones that want to compost, or at least not have their food waste go to the landfill. And so we had that meeting today, and it looks very, very promising. It's not cheap to have a subscription to it, but what residents can do, if we can popularize that, there's no cost for residents to do it, so they can just sign up on makesoil.org or download the app and do that, and they can start partnering with each other. And if we can get enough residents signed up on that for free, then that will be more likely that the Waste Reduction District would fund that, or the city and the Waste Reduction District would fund that, seeing that buy-in already. But it is a fantastic platform. It's a way they can monetize on it. It's just, they have the advertising, they have, it's what we've been looking for, but nobody's been willing to spend the money to build it out, and they're doing it. And so thank you for bringing that from Cincy, because Cincy's been doing that, and I think they have a $10,000 a year subscription, but that is pennies for what the results can actually happen. So please, if you haven't, download the app, check it out, sign up as a soil maker or a soil giver. I forget the exact terms, but it is there, and we need community members to actually join and start showing that there is support for that. Because I mean, when Earthkeeper shut down, what was the city getting? They were getting calls about what do we do now? And here's an answer that the city doesn't have to do anything with, that we can say, go to makesoil.org, download the app, and sign up and find somebody that wants, that's already composting, that's willing to take yours, right? Very, very simple. So we're looking for those solutions. Let's take action on it. That's it.
Nice, thank you. All right, council report from Councilmember Rell.
Well, as you said, Justin, we've been on break, so I don't have much to report. But as you said, we do have budget hearings coming up in August, so I thought I'd mention that. Of course, we're the legislative body, and so we do things like pass laws, ordinances, and influence policy, and then a big role that we have is we oversee the budget, and we have a number of days dedicated where the administration presents the budget to us, and then we vote on it. So it's a good opportunity for people to see the workings of city government, various departments, the specifics about their work and projects and so forth, and of course the expenditures of the city. And the first meeting is generally reserved for the controller to give a kind of a broad overview of revenues, expenditures, debt obligation, and so forth. So anyway, those dates are, it starts Monday, the 18th of August, from 6:30 to 9:30. They're all 6:30 to 9:30. So Monday, August 18th, Wednesday, the 20th, Monday, the 25th, and then Wednesday, the 27th. And this is probably going to be quite a new experience for us in many ways, because the state legislature passed SB1, which restricted taxation, and so our revenue stream is going to be affected. So I think it will be an important meeting to hear from the controller on, how that's going to influence our budget. So that's all I've got.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so that brings us to the local food resilience strategy, which is a discussion of topics not the subject of a resolution. You might have noticed if you're looking through the packet that there's some memos sort of prepended to some of these agenda items. We won't go through those memos here in the meeting. They're just for you to read, to get a kind of overview of what we're going to be talking about in the meetings, and kind of sort of come prepped, to think about that. So we can go straight to the slide deck that Jamie's going to present, which starts on page 20. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Great, and you have the floor, Jamie.
Okay.
And actually, really quick, let me just let's see. I want to make sure we're keeping track on time here. So we got about 20 minutes for presentation and discussion.
Okay, great. That's what I was going to ask.
Mhm.
The time frame.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I've been kind of working in this space and started going to some of the meetings that Dave had mentioned about 15 years ago, and it can be eye-opening. I would love more residents to go to see where our money goes. At that time, I'd also started working and thinking of urban agriculture. So I'd moved into town, completely different life change for me, and I was wondering, how am I going to feed my kids? And so going back to my grandparents and how I was raised, and food security being what you had in the cellar and what you could raise, but also is informed by my experience of going through a natural disaster in San Francisco and the Loma Prieta earthquake, and not being able to open cans of food, and no electricity, gas lines broken, water lines broken. It was a disaster area, and it took many months, and to take a hot shower was like so amazing. We didn't have cell phones, so we couldn't call, family. So it had both of those things had a huge impact on me, because I could see how it was a beautiful day and there's no food to be had, even though we had a wonderful growing climate in San Francisco. So those things have continually informed what I do. So a friend and I, back, about not quite 15 years ago, about 15 years ago, first thought about the Urban Agriculture Amendment. And about a year and a half it took for us to go through, do that, work with planning, and then for City Council to go through and pass it. And at the time, we were the first city in the state to have an Urban Agriculture Amendment. So, thank you. Not long after that, I was very proud of that accomplishment, and working with others to do that. And then about 6 months later, I'm like, we had chicken ordinance had passed. There's a modification to that where everyone needed to get neighbors to sign off and approve. No roosters. We still have no roosters. And I thought, okay, you have to pay these fees. Well, that's a hardship for many residents. So maybe they can have permission to grow, or if they own their home, this is something for a lower income family or even child, if the parents can't do this, that they could have a great food source and a very nutritious food in eggs, and those could be raised at home. And if, maybe barter trades or whatever that child might need to do. So that also informed me, because I was substituting at Fairview and a few other schools, and found that there was that need. The current state that we're in now, and with seeing, we can move on to the next one, thank you. We've had a lot of changes now, and the challenges that we face, yeah, we're on the right one. We see so many things. If we could go back to the other one, why food challenges we face. We're seeing immigration raids. These are disrupting the food sector at the national level. Although those were put on hold, there is no guarantee that they're going to stay on hold. So this could be meat packing plants. It can be farm labor in California. It can be a number of different things. We have many immigrants working in farms all over this nation. We're also seeing federal food programs like SNAP and the LFPA grant. There were 2 tracks, which I mentioned previously. Those have been impacted, and the LFPA grant program has been cut. We are not going to see any of these kind of more diversity type programs in the ag sector anymore. And this has already started impacting our local food banks in a pretty significant way. AI is something else we have on the horizon that's displacing jobs in various industries and sectors. We're usually seeing it in service jobs, but we're also having threats in the medical, for radiology, where we're seeing AI being able to read, say, MRIs and pick up things that doctors can't. So there's a lot of things going on besides the climate disasters, which we've just seen another. We haven't recovered from Asheville, where it's been a very difficult year for growing here in the state of Indiana as well. And we have this, a dollar that, it's a monetary system, and we've already had inching up. I've had to go back and redo this report and make changes because certain things have changed. So maybe the LFPA grants are completely gone, but one other has been it was cut and then brought back for a short period of time just to finish off the year. So we're living in a time that's so incredibly volatile. And I know that in government it takes a while to have change, but I feel like we don't have that time. As a farmer and grower, even if you're talking fruit trees, it's even further along than that. That if we're seeing, having folks call the alarm that we're going to have a recession starting this winter, and it could last a few years. We still don't know what's going to happen with, interest rates and folks losing jobs. Right now, things are shifting. We've seen that even locally with IU at the state level. We're living in a really volatile time. And we can go on to the next one. We've already seen that there's sensitivities in the food system, so we've seen that with COVID. And maybe that was just a warm-up for what we're going to see. And I was able, because I was a registered grower, to go into like Johnny's Selected Seeds and buy some things in bulk and be able to get them to local people and have them packaged out. And I know that there are a few nonprofits nationally that do that to make sure that there's seeds for people to grow. Right now, why now? Well, we have some of those I've mentioned, but some of this harkens back to, I know you've probably not read it, but the Peak Oil Task Force report. Dave was one of the people that was involved with that, as well as I'm a permaculture designer, and one of my teachers was also involved with that, so I'm very aware that we have only about 3 days of grocery inventory because we go on an in-demand model. It's just like order a T-shirt and it prints on demand. Well, it's similar thing for our large-scale grocery stores and even somewhat our smaller ones. So our reliance on these just-in-time supply chains, food supply chains, makes us be in a very vulnerable state. And frankly, that scares me, because we also have a population and home ownership that's down to, I think it's on one of these others, that's I have 40%. It's actually less than 40%. It's 36%. And we may need to verify this again by hand. There it is. That means that we're going to have less ability to grow our own food unless it's in a public area. And even our garden spaces are quite small, and it's more kind of learning and hobby gardens than being able to actually supply food for our community or even an individual household, unless you'd be struggling even with one person. And I could go through and we could do the calculations together, but there are calculations where that could be done. So I've gone through and looked at all of these things. The farmland, there's the city boundaries, so we want to reduce the ability or the use of fossil fuels to transport food into the city. So those things can then be assets to feed our community. The local food systems, I just gone through and talked about how that economics and food security is not really there. So harken back to many years ago and food sovereignty. We were talking about food sovereignty a lot about 15 years ago. And so this is where we may need to think about food sovereignty and the seed saving and what is going to grow here in our climate, even though we're having such hardships with so much inundation of rain. And what's been forecast is we'd have wet seasons and then dry seasons, and those droughts, and we've already started experiencing them about 10 years ago in a significant way, to where you'd try to dig down. If you could get your shovel in the ground, you couldn't find an earthworm, which means that everything's really hard compacted. So in permaculture, we have a thing that the problem is the solution. So if we have a problem, what are we going to look at in the solution? And in entrepreneurial ways, it's that you can see the opportunity. There can be a problem. Well, that problem is actually an opportunity. So I'm seeing this as an opportunity. So an opportunity to move possibly quickly. So I've created this document. I've spent months on this to create a document that goes through looking at the food system, because I'm really curious, and like I said, I'm very concerned and worried about what the future holds. So in the risks we face, if you're wanting to know more about some of those economic instabilities, some of the references I've had, Ray Dalio, he's, anyone look up Ray Dalio, he has a new book out. And he looks at debt cycles. We have Dowd, we have Fitz, we have Howe. Neil Howe talks about social orders and how generations are cyclical. And so both he and Dalio look at the cyclical nature of things, which is very much into like soil and how we renew ourselves. We'll go through, there's more of that federal support ending, AI displacement. We're seeing it mostly in retail, but it's also happening in marketing as writers are being replaced. The medical I'd started to mention, but there's a few others that are being threatened. So this is not just a lower income situation we're going to be facing. We're going to have some very highly trained people that are going to be facing these situations. And since Bloomington does have a lot of interest and investment in medical sciences, this is something we need to think about. So here's a few of the climate extremes: floods, droughts, and storms. And then the tariffs and import disruptions. So fertilizer and processed foods, which as a health coach, trying to move folks off of processed foods for better health also just is better for our environment for various reasons. Fertilizers can be imported in from whether that's Ukraine, and if anyone's been growing, then you knew that when all of the invasion of Russia into Ukraine, we were not able to get phosphate or triple superphosphate, which is important for root development. The only way to get that is actually through urine. So we, really needing to look at, okay, where are our supplies and how can we move those to being local? So next slide. So where we stand now, we've had some really good progress in the past. We have a number of farmers markets. Some of it was somewhat difficult growth in that from some things that happened here locally, but we do have other farmers markets. We've had some garden expansion, so it was larger. It contracted a bit, but it's gotten larger again. And then we have more urban farms than we had before in a few local orchards, but we don't have recent data for that. So the Bloomington Food Policy Council does have an old website that has a report that was created that talks about that. So also the challenge is that home ownership rate of really 36%. Luxury development, as we were talking already, is sometimes displacing green spaces, but also is not putting in the sustainability type features of being having a resilient food supply. We have minimal food focused zoning, and small animal ag is prohibited or very limited, which is why looking at those county areas that are right next to city borders is very important. And we talked about back in the Peak Oil Task Force report, and I think one of the other reports, the goal was 20% self-provisioning goals, and we've fallen below that. We've not met that, and it's been about 15 years. So how do we move forward? Well, we can look to what was adopted by this commission right before I joined, and that was looking at the UN, what is it called? UN Sustainable Development Goals. So it's SDG. So when we think about that, we can look at those and find that there are many that fit into sustainability. So the regional food system cooperation, since we need to cooperate with the county, and this would be also like Ellisville and other townships of where do they get their food? Well, it would have to be grown in the county. We cannot grow our grains in the city, that's for sure. It takes way too much space, and we're not set up for combines and such. We also can't do animal husbandry and things like that within the city. So really looking at some kind of cooperation, cooperative zoning, any kind of development, grant-backed infrastructure before these grants go away for production, storage, and distribution. So that would be in partnerships. I've talked to Lost River Co-op in Paoli and have been working with them on the Food as Medicine program, and they did apply for one of these grants, but it took 2 years for it to come through. So we need to be very aware that even though it may be an annual grant cycle, it may not fit, we may not be getting those monies. And the way how volatile it is now, I'd like to move forward on this as quickly as possible before those monies contract. We've made a lot of progress in urban agriculture, so looking at this development, which was mentioned earlier, Sudbury, that was placed in a food desert. The BFPC, Bloomington Food Policy Council, we did a look at this area, and that was at that time a food desert. That was not something that council had been aware of or was reminded of. So that was passed without any kind of look at the food system in that area, although they did get, a school added. So zoning for edible landscaping and food production and development, so that would fit this sustainable development goal of climate action as well as responsible production. To build food hubs and cooperative infrastructure to make that food access, and those points, just like the co-op or the Bloomington Growers Cooperative on Kirkwood, they could also be possibly I can't say, emergency collection points or distribution points because it's within a neighborhood. And then local seed banks. So this would be great to partner with libraries or schools. So schools do a lot of distribution and they have a large reach, so that, say there's one nonprofit up in northern Michigan and they were able to work with schools to get foods to the children and the children's family through their network, and was able to raise money to pay the farmers instead of having the farmers donate. I think around here it was please donate, except the farmers need to keep the land and that costs. So that was SDG 2 and SDG 15. So we can go to the next. So the immediate opportunities for some of these grants, and this isn't all of them. I think there's what I'd found were 3 or 4 more than this, but this will give you an idea of the timeline. So the urban ag grants will close on August 15th, and that is something for equipment, outreach, and planning. That's something that we could apply for right away. All of these on the very right-hand column will tell you what it would help, the funding would be for. So we could start to think about how this fits into a larger scale plan. Okay, I can go on to the next one, please. The immediate action that we talked about before in this body, I think others would be interested in this, and we really don't know, I don't remember why it was just only one flock size, but our lots are all different sizes. So to increase that availability of nutritious foods and, the poultry waste, which can be, it's a very high nitrogen fertilizer, so there need to be some education for people to know how to manage this. But it may be, a bokashi kind of thing could be integrated in somehow. That to look at the lots and then increase the amount of hens someone would be able to keep. That would greatly increase our proteins within the city that we wouldn't otherwise have. This would align with the Sustainability Action Plan, the Peak Oil Task Force Report, and the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and that would be the 2, 3, 11, 12, and 13. Okay.
I want to give you a high five for that. That's awesome.
You're welcome. And the next one would be, this is the proposal.
Yeah, so real quick, just before we move on to that, so for the report that you put together, and Jamie's put together a very like detailed and well-researched report that I think is pretty much ready for people to take a look at, or maybe it will soon be.
I have allowed some farmers and those that like Bethel Lane Farm Stop, as well as a few other people. So if they have anything to add, they will have, and they work in various areas of the food system and our farmers too. So yeah, that's like 45 pages. So if you want to deep dive into this, and most of it's going to be bullet points that will flow. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, you're good. Yeah, so it is a deep dive, like Jamie said. So we'll send that out to folks so that you have a good chunk of time to peruse it at your leisure, and we can discuss certain aspects of it and stuff at the next meeting. And the chicken resolution that we're looking at today is one of the recommendations that you made in that report, right? So. Yeah, I guess that's the only the intro that I have for that. So, yeah, we can move on to the resolution first reading here. So, if you want to give a quick introduction of yeah, I mean you kind of already did, but why these numbers, and anything extra you wanted to say about it in 2 or 3 minutes, and then we can have a very brief discussion before we move to a vote.
Sure. Some of the urban ag, when passed, that 10, 15 years ago, excluded mobile home parks, which planning is adding in. So I'm really happy about that. Since that time also, we have agri-villages, and this is something that we may have more of. But mobile home parks could possibly also be agri-villages because they are already a cohesive neighborhood. Some of them are 55 plus here in town as well. And this is something that could allow the expansion, even if they are not, individual, really small lots or really large lots, will allow all as many people as possible to be able to help sustain themselves and create a more resilient community. Because sustainability can be great, but it's almost assuming that everything's going along just the way it always is. But unless we can flex with all the bumps, and we are experiencing a lot of bumps right now in all these different areas of life, that this is one way to help us get to to get through those bumps, to continue to be sustainable and go back to, things we want to do rather than just, okay, let's do this. It's the jolts. We've got to find a way to get through the jolts.
Can we scroll down a little bit, get to the therefore clauses? It would be helpful for folks to see. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so there's a couple sections to it. Yeah, it's the scaling up based on lot size is section 1, and then the agri-villages and mobile home parks that Jamie was just mentioning is section 2. And then the section 3. Yeah, do you want to say anything about section 3?
Well, it's part of that food resilience and sustainability goals that we already have an action plan. And the commission has been very active in other areas the past few years, and not since the farm stop has been, I think, off the ground on Kirkwood have we really looked at the sustainability of our food supply. And so going back to the sustainability action plan, and then of course the peak oil task force report, and aligning them with what we said we were going to do with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And this will help you find which ones those are: 2, 3, 11, 12, and 13.
All right, so we've got a few minutes for any thoughts or discussion. Again, the bulk of the discussions and suggesting specific changes and things can happen next meeting. But just food for thought. That's going to be good for the rest of the commission. As we think about this over the next month.
Okay, Tara has a question.
Yeah, Tara, go ahead.
Yeah, I have 2 related questions. So the lot size refers to the full size of the property lot, not like the part of the property that doesn't have a house on it, right?
Right, it is the
Okay.
complete lot size, and then there are, just like there are now, there will be setbacks, and there are setbacks for all of those. Yeah. And so
Okay,
it's just,
I guess that's my other question.
yeah, I'm sorry, it's
That's
just.
my related question, because there are regulations about like distance
Mhm.
from property edge.
Mhm.
So it's square footage minus those distances?
No, it would include, I'm thinking that it would include those distances, and then that 10 feet or 15 feet or so with the buffer you would set it in
So
inside of that.
can I jump on that?
Yeah, sure.
So
you
yeah,
may
so
be
the
able to
lot
explain
size
it.
is the entire lot size, including up to the sidewalk, right? But then there's rules that you have to have a setback from how far the chicken coop or run has to be from there. So yeah, so it would be the actual entire lot size is how you would qualify.
So I guess that's my question, is that if these numbers, like if this, I don't know a ton about chicken farming, like are these numbers sufficient to have a coop that would be large enough for this?
Yes.
Yes.
With those,
Yes.
those
Yes.
easement rules? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, and 5,000 square feet is like I just looked it up, is the size of a basketball court. So it's more than large enough to have a house on and have a flock of 5, because you don't need a lot of space for a flock
Yeah.
of 5.
And no area measurements in football fields.
But
I
there are square footage requirements about your run size as
Correct.
well, based on the number of birds.
Correct.
That's really what my question is about the run size.
Yeah, I think it's, I forget, 20, 25 square feet per chicken, something to that extent. But it's very, very reasonable, and people that have the larger lot size have plenty of room to have the larger runs.
All right, Councilmember Rallo had his hand raised, and then John, you had something.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that this follows really, well, first of all, let me say it, I want to thank Jamie for this because it's needed updating for many years. I was the sponsor of the original chicken ordinance in 2006, and it was quite controversial because people, couldn't conceive of it, but the controversy died down, and I haven't heard of any problems since then. But that said, I think before the council would adopt something like this, we'd probably engage the hand department and animal care and control just to see if, specific to the flock size, and see if they have sufficient staff and staff time in order for, because they're concerned about humane treatment, of course, and making sure the code is followed. But I don't really anticipate any problem. I just think that it's something to kind of open up lines of communication before it's adopted as an ordinance. But I think this is a great way to go because, building resilience for the community, this is a year-round protein source for people. And I think that the flock size to date has been insufficient. It's been too small. So I really like it. I think this makes sense of hinging it on lot size as it is. Just essentially extends that 5 number for a small lot and adds, birds relative to the size of the lot. I think that's completely logical, and I think I would expect it to be supported. But anyway, we'll see about that. But this is a really good resolution. Thanks.
I can add something. I had a few years ago, since I worked on that chicken ordinance too, that when I called animal control to, I think it was 2-3 years ago, to see how things stand, I periodically will call, and most of their calls and complaints are for dogs or something else. It's definitely not for chickens. So that was a concern at the time that this was passed, that there would be a lot of overhead, but there really wasn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. John?
Just glancing at the document, it looks like in some places it says chickens and sometimes it says hens. Are roosters straight prohibited?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
It's, yeah. Well, it's
Well-
like, you can have 100 hens, but if you have one rooster,
Yeah.
it's a whole different
Well,
thing.
and this is something I've
Cock-a-doodle don't.
this is something that because you can't have an ongoing flock with fertilized eggs and no hens, that there's that isn't really sustainable either, unless we have this cooperation with the county and we have somebody who's willing, or a few different folks, and this is where the problem is a solution. It can be a business opportunity for someone who wants to, sell more chickens or something. Something else was in mind, and now I can't remember what it was, so I'll let go of the floor.
I would save any discussion about urban roosters for a separate thing. I'm telling you,
Oh.
push this through.
What-
I just think you're gonna.
What I'd experienced is that without the roosters, that I've tried this twice with hens, and one of my hens would act as the rooster, and it was not even a pleasant type crow. I'm putting this hen in my back shed, and I eventually, I couldn't work at home with it. It would have been much better to just have the rooster than a hen that was wanting to be the rooster because there was, an imbalance there. So anyway, most people probably don't know about that, but it does sometimes happen. And you can either cull them, so we do have, as part of the ordinance now, where we can butcher our own chickens. So that
In
eliminates
7 years
that.
of chicken husbandry, we have not experienced.
I'm glad. I wouldn't wish that
handgun
on
last
anyone.
Yeah, Councilmember Rello, and then we'll move to the vote.
Thanks. Something I forgot to add. Back in 2006, when I was bringing this forward, there was the specter of bird flu, and people were throwing that up, which was really a kind of a spurious thing at the time, but it scared a lot of people, and I actually had to go to the hospital and get infectious disease experts to sign off on a letter to say it wasn't any more of a risk than backyard wild bird feeding. You know, the real danger are these big CAFOs, you know, like the one in Jackson County where they had to do this mass slaughter because, there are so many birds it confined to a small area. So to me, this is the antidote for that. But I just want to put that forward in case you all hear any rumblings about that, because, had to do some work to convince people that wasn't an issue.
I do just want to note the time, and I do have one announcement to get to.
Perfect, yep. Great, okay, so we'll move on to the vote here, and again, this is just the first reading, so this is just a vote to advance this to the second reading at the next meeting where we can introduce any amendments that people want and discuss a little more thoroughly. So do I have a motion to, I guess not to adopt?
Motion to vote on first reading.
Motion to admit.
Yeah.
Motion to advance.
There you go. Okay, we'll call it 0. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll just do a voice vote for this. So all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Okay. I will note that I did not consider that an abstention. We're doing a roll call vote anyway. Okay, great. So that advances to the next meeting, and we'll pick it up for formal adoption at the next meeting. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Jamie, for this. And
trans chickens, rooster stud farms, and a solution to the price of eggs.
Yeah, all right. And on that note, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is report from staff liaison.
Thank you, and I just want to say thank you to everybody for all of your hard work. You guys are doing amazing work in our community, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate Justin's work on all of the agenda items and presentation slides. You're doing a great job, Justin, so I really appreciate that. Very well organized. I think the best I've ever seen BCOS organized, so thank you. So I have a good announcement. So the City of Bloomington has been selected to move forward on a grant proposal that we submitted for the Municipal Investment Fund. We are anticipating being awarded $250,000. You might remember that I asked BCOS to be a part of the proposal letter and to sign off that you would help to promote our proposal. So the proposal was to hire an engineering design firm and a financial consultant to provide free technical assistance to building owners and developers so that if they have ideas for solar or energy efficiency projects, that team would go in and do the design analysis and financial analysis and provide that to them. The funding will also pay for developing an energy navigator program. So we would need volunteers from the community to be a part of this volunteer group that would go door to door explaining to residents the benefits of energy efficiency and renewable energy. And another part of the grant program is to contract a consulting firm to conduct an EV charging study for our community so that we know where the best locations are for EV charging stations. 50% of the funding needs to be spent in LIDAC, low-income and disadvantaged communities. And so, I wanted to put that on your radar. It's something that we're going to need a lot of help with. And so the goal of this program is to provide the organization that's managing this grant. There is Coalition for Green Capital and ICLEI, 2 different organizations that are managing this program, but to provide a list of projects that we want to see implemented in Bloomington and to bring private capital to Bloomington. And so There's $2 million that will be allocated. They're going to select 10 different plans to provide up to $2 million for low-cost capital. If we're not selected for one of those 10 projects, we still have our list of projects, and we're going to be asking private investors to come into Bloomington to help fund those projects. So it's a lot of work in a short amount of time. We only have 6 months to complete all of the work. So just want to put that on your radar, and I'll be asking and begging for help. Yes.
I have a question. So for clarity, so 50% of the grant monies are to go to low-income neighborhoods? Is that for the EV chargers?
It's not to implement any projects. It's that we are
Okay.
going into those communities. We're asking them, what type of projects do you want to see in these census tracts?
Great.
Like if there's a multifamily unit that is interested in solar and or energy efficiency for those buildings, we have our free technical assistance program to go in, design those things, tell them how much it would cost, and that project will be on our list. So 50% of the planned projects need to be within a LIDAC census tract. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you.
I think Bloomington, the city of Bloomington or Monroe County should be its own utility. Get off Duke, and then we can hold IU's feet to the fire. And then otherwise, microgrids. We should look at microgrids, which could be neighborhoods fully self-sustainable with their own power generation. If you have batteries in there, they'd be much more sustainable to the disasters that inevitably are going to
Right,
happen.
so if we
that
have a
would be my two.
multifamily unit that
Great
serves
idea.
low-income residents,
Yep.
they can be a
Solar
part of this.
and batteries.
Batteries.
Yep.
This is the amount of funding that we need.
Yep.
So for the installation, so that's for the design. For the installation, does the city have, how much grant monies would there be to make sure that these are installed?
So this would be private capital that we're trying to bring to Bloomington. So
Okay.
it's not city-funded projects. It would be
Okay.
the building owners that would be applying for this capital.
Okay.
Mhm. So the financial analyst will let them know what is the return on investment, what does this look like? And for developers too, so. So it's
And
exciting,
so-
it's a lot of work.
And so if the Hopewell development was made truly affordable, it would be one of those low-income disadvantaged communities, census tracts, and would be a way to shore up the funding that seems to be an issue with Hopewell, which is right on the B line. People could go without cars and yet have renewable energy.
Mhm. Yep, so that will be, proposed to the developers of Hopewell. This project is here. We've got the free free technical assistance available if you're interested. So, yeah, it's really exciting. So we're competing with 52 other entities that have been selected for this program.
Okay. Yeah, exciting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't have anything else.
Okay,
Lisa.
perfect. Well, yeah, so let us know
Okay.
if there's anything specific we can do to help with that, but otherwise folks can share. Is it on the website, like posted to the website
I
yet?
haven't
Or?
posted anything yet,
Okay.
because we don't have a signed contract yet, so I'm not,
Okay.
not gonna post anything or do anything extra until the money is.
Yeah.
So we've partnered with Indiana Energy Independence Fund. They're sort of serving as our fiscal sponsor.
Mhm.
So until that funding is there, we're not going to announce anything or do anything. So I just wanted to put that on your radar that it is coming, that, we have to submit a lot of different forms and have the contract signed, so it's gonna be a little while, but it's on its way. It's,
Please keep us updated.
Yeah.
I will keep you updated, yes.
Once
Great.
Yes.
you have that in hand, I mean, I don't know if other commissioners feel this way, but email me right away.
Yeah, I will definitely keep everyone.
Because then we can help with the outreach, because the time frame is so short too.
Mhm, it is so short. We have 6 months from the time we start to finish. So
It's kind of crazy.
yeah, Jolie went to a meeting too, and we're like, we're ready to go.
Deep breath.
Yeah. Yes. It's going to be a heavy lift, but it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that report. Okay, that brings us to 7:30. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And a second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Bye.
Okay. The ayes have it. So we're adjourned at 7:30 p.m. Thanks, everybody.